Donald Trump, Megyn Kelly catfight / blood feud continued throughout the weekend. It's been 4 or 5 days now since the debate, and it is still ongoing. Donald Trump launching a number of different attacks against Megyn Kelly and Fox News generally, from the fairly obvious to the obviously misogynistic. We're going to be covering a couple of different angles on this. The first, Trump speaking to Don Lemon, and look at what he says about Megyn Kelly here.
What is it with you and Megyn Kelly?
Well, I just don't respect her as a journalist. I have no respect for her. I don't think she's very good. I think she's highly overrated. But when I came out there, what am I doing? I'm not getting paid for this. I go out there, and they start saying, "Lift up arm if you're going to." I didn't know there'd be 24 million people. I figured, but I knew it was going to be a big crowd because I get big crowds. I get ratings. They call me the ratings machine. So I have, she gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever. But she was, in my opinion, she was off base.
So when he was attacked for, I think, fairly clearly making a menstruation reference there in regards to Megyn Kelly, he responded something like 12 hours later, "Oh no, I was talking about her nose." But the word nose apparently just evaded him. He couldn't come up with it in the moment. And what I love about that is he's both childish enough to make a reference to Megyn Kelly's vagina in attacking her, and not man enough, although he says he'll stand up to anyone, not man enough to actually admit that that's what he's doing. He's the worst combination of bore and child at the same time.
The funny thing is that Megyn Kelly attacks him from the left on this. They're supposed to be the party who hates political correctness. They're supposed to be the party who likes to talk to women like they're Ralph Cramden. That's the whole thing. And by the way, when Megyn Kelly was trying to take Trump down during that debate for being misogynistic and using offensive language towards women to describe women, the whole room was cheering for him.
That's true.
So this idea that somehow you're going to take, that somehow Donald Trump has now crossed the line of good taste inside the Republican Party, there is no line. You cannot cross that. In fact, the whole room cheered for him. They cheered to let sick people die 4 years ago. This is the underbelly of America. It's the Republican presidential debate audience. So again, Trump is the winner. Megyn Kelly is the loser.
Out of that particular thing, yes.
If Megyn Kelly worked anywhere else, she would be the winner. But you can't be on a network that continually stands up for misogyny, continually stands up for race baiting, and then say all of a sudden, this guy crossed the line because he said it about me.
Yeah. Yeah, we noted the cheering at the time, and I think perhaps she was hoping that, look, the conservative males in the audience are going to eat that shit up, of course. But maybe some of the conservative women will notice that this guy, Donald Trump, that they find to be interesting or invigorating or whatever, he literally goes through his life looking at you as a vagina with an annoying brain attached to it. At best, if he even considers your brain. He does not care about you as people. It is clear through all of his comments on social media or in interviews. And even so, the conservative women in the audience were cheering. They love, apparently, to be objectified in this particular way. Now, that was not, of course, the only question that Megyn Kelly asked. Overall, Donald Trump says that the way that she framed certain questions to him was much harsher than it was in terms of the questions that she framed to other candidates, other than perhaps Rand Paul. But she believes that she was 100% fair, which you'll see in this clip.
Somebody like Donald Trump who complained, that's fine. This was a big night for him, and it was the first time he ever participated in a presidential debate. So I'm sure the nerves were high, as they were for all the candidates. And he felt attacked. It wasn't an attack. It was a fair question. But I get it. And he's in the arena, and so am I.
They were both in the arena.
Yes.
But the funny thing, of course, is we sort of agree with Trump, I think, in this. That she was not simply trying to drill down, as she would say, to the real issues of the day. They were giving softballs to certain candidates and hardballs to others. I think that they were being unfair to him, not with the misogyny question. I think that was 100% fair. But overall, they did have an agenda. So I think Donald Trump has a point there.
Well, there's no doubt. I thought it was just taken for granted. Watching that and then watching the Frank Luntz thing after. There's a concerted effort. There was a meeting. And they were like, we got to take down Donald Trump.
Yeah.
All right. And so we got to get rid of him. He's messing things up for us. He's letting the cat out of the bag about how corrupt our system is.
Yes.
And he's saying it during the biggest debate audience in the history of our country.
100%.
100%. Right. And he made everybody else on that stage look like a fucking child compared to him. Right.
Yes.
Which he did. A guy like
That's
Donald
true.
Trump has the ability to make those Chris Christie look like a chump, which he is, right? So that's why they got to get rid of him.
That's true.
It's fantastic, and I love to see, Megyn Kelly, you can't come at Donald Trump for being a misogynist while you work for Fox News.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't. By the way, on that same debate stage, that same night, candidate after candidate after candidate said how they don't trust a woman to make her own medical decisions with her doctor.
Yeah.
They said that she's not smart enough. The government has to tell her how she can handle. In fact, candidate after candidate said, and they proudly said, I defund health care for women. That's the real scandal here, but everybody's worried that Donald Trump said something mean to Megyn Kelly about menstruation.
Yeah.
The real problem is that these guys are proud to defund Planned Parenthood from coast to coast. There's your scandal, but that doesn't get any of the press coverage.
Yeah.
The press coverage, Donald Trump said something mean to Megyn Kelly.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't get press coverage from Fox. We've certainly talked about it quite a bit.
Okay.
I want to get to one final little interaction because this might be the most childish. We'll see if it warrants the coverage that I'm giving it from Jimmy in just a second. This is a tweet that went out recently by Donald Trump in reference to an interview from a number of years ago by Megyn Kelly. He says, "Oh, really? Check out how innocent Megyn Kelly discussion on Howard Stern's show 5 years ago. I am the innocent, pure." He has a thesaurus. Pure one. Okay, and so what did they talk about in there? It was with Howard Stern. I did not listen to the entire interview. I don't listen to Howard Stern generally, but I have heard that it was one of the more tame Stern interviews. She made reference to this in regards to her sex life. "We used to call them killer bees," she said, referencing her breasts. "Then when I got pregnant, they became swimming seas, and Doug, her husband, was frolicking in the ocean." And so that is specifically the section that he was pointing to there. And this is in reference to claims that he is a misogynist. He says, look at her. She made a cutesy reference to one of her body parts. Look at how unpure and uninnocent she is. He thinks that a woman having any sort of fun with her husband, she's talking about her husband here, and her sexuality after her being pregnant, that is cause enough to say she's not so innocent anymore.
Well,
he's a terrible guy.
Again, Johnny, though, I will say this, to just point, Trump is right in a sense that she's like, oh, I'm the big problem. You go on Howard Stern's show and yuck it up with him. The guy,
yeah, that's a good point.
The guy who on a daily basis had, anyway, what Howard Stern does for women. And so I don't want to get
There are some rough segments on there.
Yeah, I don't want to get it. I mean, he made his living off having lesbians on a radio show, which is amazing, like having ventriloquists on a radio show.
I've always wondered about
you get
that.
Away with that.
You want to talk about Eric Erickson, though?
So Eric Erickson disinvited, he runs that redstate.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was also a contributor on CNN for a long time.
Yeah.
Because CNN also likes racists and misogynists to watch their shows.
That's true, yeah.
And so he had a couple, so I was reading a story, I think over at Raw. Raw
Story?
Yeah, is that it? Mm-hmm. And they had some tweets posted by Eric, and I'm like, wait a minute, Eric Erickson disinviting Donald Trump.
For misogyny specifically.
For misogyny.
Yes.
Because what he said about Megyn Kelly, he said was over the line. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure Eric Erickson is the biggest misogynist I've freaking seen in national media.
Yeah.
So Raw Story did do so. And here's a couple of his tweets. One of his tweets, hang on, where is it? Here it is. One of his tweets, he said he was upset at feminists and he called them feminazis. That's what the feminazis were enraged over? Seriously. That's what being too ugly to get a date does to your brain. That was Eric Erickson tweeting in 2010. He said feminazis that's what being too ugly to get a date does to your brain. Mm-hmm. Next tweet, all these angry feminists in my timeline today. I thought Sam Alito ordered them all home to make sandwiches this morning. It's another tweet. Right out. And he's upset at Donald Trump's misogyny.
But don't you want an expert evaluating misogyny?
So I said that's what Eric Erickson's upset about, Trump stealing his best lines.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, and look, so Eric Erickson disinviting him is not about the misogyny, of course.
This is not, they are
it's the
not
establishment
upset that
thing.
he's being misogynistic.
Yeah.
The right wing, don't believe it for a second when you see George Will and Bill Kristol and Joe Scarborough or whoever else says that they're upset that Donald Trump's being misogynistic or racist. They're not. They're not upset. They're just upset that he's the guy. and they don't want him to be the guy because they can't control him.
Yeah.
Because the party has no power over him, meaning Fox News has no power over him, and that's why they got to get rid of this guy because he'll do whatever he wants. He won't do their bidding.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. It has nothing to do with, no, we're upset. You're upset about a lefty issue you've been fucking ridiculing since the day you went on the air. Political correct speech. That's what you guys are upset at Donald Trump about?
It's pretty amazing that Donald Trump is able to get Megyn Kelly to defend being politically correct and Eric Erickson to attack misogyny. I don't know what's going to be next.
Chris Christie coming out against deep frying.